The Great Hall of Nexus Prime had never seen such a gathering. Representatives from 47 different species filled the massive chamber, their voices creating a low rumble that echoed off the crystal walls. The Zephyrian Galactic Empire was holding its most important council meeting in over 300 years. Ambassador Veltar stood at the center of the hall, his blue skin gleaming under the bright lights. His forearms moved gracefully as he prepared to address the council. The tall, thin alien had spent the last 6 months studying reports about a new species discovered at the edge of the galaxy. Today, he would present his findings to the Empires. Leaders, fellow citizens of the Empire, Veltar began, his voice carrying easily through the hall. We gather today to discuss the fate of a newly discovered species. They call themselves humans, and they live on a small planet they name Earth in a system called Sol. The representatives leaned forward in their seats. New species were always interesting, especially when they might join the Empire's vast workforce. The Empire had grown strong by bringing order to the galaxy, giving guidance to primitive species, and helping them find their proper place in civilized society. Veltar activated a holographic display that showed a rotating image of Earth. The blue and green planet looked peaceful enough, covered in water and clouds. This world sits in what they call the habitable zone. The humans have spread across most of its surface. Our scouts estimate their population at approximately 8 billion individuals. A low murmur went through the crowd. 8 billion was a respectable number for a single world. The Empire could find good use for so many workers. However, Veltar continued, raising one of his 4 hands, our detailed study has revealed that these humans are not suitable for full membership in our empire. In fact, they represent one of the most primitive and illogical species we have ever encountered. The hologram changed to show images of human cities with their chaotic layouts and primitive architecture. Look at how they build their settlements. No order, no logic. They construct buildings of different heights and styles right next to each other. Their transportation systems create massive jams where thousands of vehicles sit motionless for hours. Several representatives made sounds of disgust. The Empire prided itself on efficient city planning and smooth traffic flow. But their primitive building methods are the least of our concerns, Veltar said. The hologram now showed scenes of human conflicts throughout history. These humans are incredibly violent, even by the standards of young species. They have fought thousands of wars among themselves. They create weapons designed specifically to kill other humans. In just the last century, they have fought 2 massive global conflicts that killed millions of their own kind. The representative from the peaceful Delvian species stood up, her tentacles quivering with shock. Ambassador, surely you must be mistaken. No intelligent species would deliberately kill so many of their own. Veltar's expression grew more serious. I wish I were wrong, Counselor Thalana, but the evidence is overwhelming. These humans seem to enjoy conflict. They create entertainment based on violence. They play games where they pretend to fight and kill each other. They even watch recorded violence for pleasure. The hall erupted in concerned chatter. The Empire's citizens found such behavior deeply disturbing. Most civilized species had moved beyond violence thousands of years ago. There is more, Veltar continued, waiting for the noise to die down. The humans make decisions based on emotion, rather than logic. They choose leaders not based on intelligence or ability, but on who can make them feel good with speeches. They make important choices while angry or afraid or sad. They even mate based on emotion rather than genetic compatibility. Commander Zexler of the Imperial fleet stood up, his massive frame towering over the other representatives. Ambassador, if these humans are so violent and illogical, perhaps we should simply avoid their system altogether. Why risk contact with such unpredictable beings? Veltar smiled, showing his sharp teeth. An excellent question, Commander. The answer is simple. Despite their many flaws, these humans could still serve the Empire. They are physically strong for their size, and they seem capable of working long hours. With proper guidance and control, they could make adequate manual laborers. The hologram changed again, showing humans working in fields, factories, and construction sites. As you can see, they are already accustomed to physical labor. They work with primitive tools and seem content with simple tasks. Under Imperial supervision, they could be quite useful. Counselor Mordic from the industrial craven species nodded approvingly. The Empire always needs more workers for mining operations and basic manufacturing. These humans might be perfect for dangerous jobs that we prefer not to give to more valuable species. Exactly, Veltar agreed, but we must be careful. Their violent tendencies and emotional decision-making make them potentially dangerous if left unsupervised. I recommend classifying them as a Class D subservient species. This would place them under direct Imperial control for their own protection and the safety of civilized beings. The Class D classification was rarely used. It meant the species would have no rights to self-governance and would exist solely to serve the Empire's needs. Only the most primitive or dangerous species receive such treatment. Dr. Yilvex, the Empire's chief xenobiologist, requested permission to speak. I have reviewed Ambassador Veltar's research extensively. The humans show several concerning biological factors. Their lifespans are incredibly short, averaging less than 100 years. This suggests a species that acts without thinking about long-term consequences. The scientist activated his own holographic display, showing human anatomy. They also show clear signs of evolutionary trauma. Their bodies are poorly designed with numerous structural weaknesses. They suffer from back pain due to walking upright on a frame evolved for four-legged movement. They require 8 hours of unconsciousness every day to function properly. Many of their organs serve no apparent purpose. Most concerning, Dr. Yovex continued, is their brain chemistry. They produce chemicals that cause irrational behavior when under stress. Instead of thinking clearly during dangerous situations, they become more emotional and unpredictable. This is the opposite of how intelligent species should evolve. The evidence seemed overwhelming. The representatives began discussing among themselves, and the consensus was clear. These humans were clearly inferior beings who needed the Empire's guidance. Emperor Zalthek himself rarely spoke during council meetings, preferring to let his representatives handle routine business. But now the ancient ruler rose from his throne, and the entire hall fell silent. His voice, amplified by the hall's acoustics, carried absolute authority. The evidence is clear, the Emperor declared. These humans represent a failed branch of evolution. They are violent, emotional, and short-lived. Left to themselves, they will likely destroy their own planet within a few generations. It is our duty as the galaxy's guiding force to intervene. The Emperor's words carried the weight of absolute law. I hereby classify the human species as Class D subservient. They will be taken into protective custody for their own good and the good of galactic civilization. Commander Zexler, prepare a fleet for immediate departure to the Sol system. The commander saluted smartly. How large a force will be required, my Emperor? Emperor Zalthek waved dismissively. These are primitive beings with no real space. Capability. A single battle group should be more than sufficient. Make it clear that we come as protectors, not conquerors. Once they understand our superiority, they will surely be grateful for our guidance. The council erupted in approving cheers. Another species would soon join the Empire's great civilization. The humans would be saved from their own primitive nature and given purpose, serving their betters. As the representatives filed out of the hall, making plans for integrating the new workers into Imperial society, none of them noticed the small oversight in their research. In their certainty of human inferiority, they had missed the most important fact about the species they had just condemned. They had never asked what had happened to the other species that had tried to conquer Earth. Commander Zexler stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Imperial Destiny, watching the small blue planet grow larger on the main screen. 3 weeks had passed since the council meeting on Nexus Prime. The journey to the Sol system had been routine, just like dozens of other missions to bring primitive species under Imperial protection. His battle group consisted of 12 ships, more than enough to handle any resistance from the humans. The largest ship could destroy entire cities with a single blast from its main cannon. The humans had no real space technology, according to the reports. Their most advanced weapons were primitive nuclear devices that could barely scratch Imperial armor. "Sir," called Lieutenant Haxville from the communications station, "we are receiving multiple signals from the planet. They appear to be using radio waves and some kind of digital transmissions." Zexler nodded. "Primitive but expected. Open a channel to their planet. Use all their communication methods so every human can hear our message." The commander straightened his uniform and walked to the center of the bridge. Behind him, the Imperial banner displayed the symbol of peace and order that had brought civilization to 47 worlds. He had given this same speech many times before. "Attention, inhabitants of the planet Earth," he began, his voice being translated into dozens of human languages. "I am Commander Zexler of the Zephyrian Galactic Empire. We have come to your world with an offer of protection and guidance." He paused, letting the words sink in. Usually, primitive species needed time to understand the honor being offered to them. "Your species has been studied by our greatest scientists. We have determined that you require our assistance to reach your full potential. Your violent nature and emotional decision-making have prevented you from achieving true civilization. We offer you membership in our great empire as a protected species." The bridge crew smiled as they listened. They had seen this process many times. Soon the human leaders would respond with gratitude and wonder. There might be some initial confusion, but primitive species always recognized Imperial superiority in the end. "You will surrender all weapons and military equipment to our forces. Your leaders will step down and allow Imperial governors to guide your development. In return, you will receive food, shelter, and meaningful work contributing to galactic civilization. You have one of your hours to respond." Zexler sat back in his command chair, satisfied with another routine mission. The humans would need time to overcome their shock and organize a proper response. He had dealt with dozens of primitive species, and they all followed the same pattern. 50-7 minutes later, the response came. "Sir," Lieutenant Haxville called out, his voice uncertain, "we are receiving a transmission from Earth. It appears to be coming from multiple locations simultaneously." "Put it on the main screen," Zexler ordered. The image that appeared showed dozens of different humans in various locations. Some wore military uniforms, others civilian clothes. Some stood in obvious government buildings, others in what appeared to be military bunkers. But they all had the same expression on their faces. They were smiling. A woman in a dark blue uniform stepped forward. The translation system identified her as speaking for something called the United Nations Security Council. "Commander Zexler of the Zephyrian Galactic Empire," she said, her voice calm and clear. "Thank you for your generous offer. After careful consideration by the leaders of Earth, we have prepared our response." Zexler leaned forward. This was the moment when primitive species usually begged for mercy or offered tribute. The woman's smile grew wider. Behind her, every other human on the screen wore the same expression. "Our response is this," she said. "Come and take it." The transmission ended. Zexler stared at the blank screen in confusion. In all his years of service, no primitive species had ever refused Imperial protection. They always recognized the benefits of joining galactic civilization. "Sir," called his tactical officer, "should we repeat the message?" Perhaps their translation systems malfunctioned. Before Zexler could answer, new alarms started sounding across the bridge. "Commander," shouted the sensor operator, "I am detecting multiple launches from the planet's surface. Dozens of objects are heading toward our position." Zexler stood up quickly. "What kind of objects? Escape pods? Cargo vessels?" "Unknown, sir. They are too small to carry passengers, but too large to be communication devices. They appear to be accelerating toward us at high speed." The tactical display showed red dots streaming up from Earth's surface. Whatever the humans had launched, they were coming fast. Defensive positions, Zexter ordered. But do not fire unless fired upon. These humans probably do not understand what they are doing. The first wave of objects reached the Imperial fleet 3 minutes later. They looked like metal cylinders with primitive rocket engines attached. As they got closer, the Imperial sensors detected nuclear warheads inside each one. "Sir," the tactical officer called out, "these appear to be weapons. Primitive nuclear." "Missiles?" Zexter almost laughed. "Nuclear weapons against Imperial shields? The humans might as well throw rocks at his ships." "Let them come," he said. "When their weapons prove useless, they will understand our superiority." The first missile struck the Imperial Destiny's shields and exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The ship barely trembled. The bridge crew chuckled at the futile attack. Then the second wave hit, and the third, and the fourth. "Sir," the shield operator called out, his voice rising with concern, "shield strength is down to 60%. These weapons are more powerful than our scans indicated." Zexter frowned. Even primitive nuclear weapons should not be affecting Imperial shields this much. "How many more missiles are coming?" "Long-range sensors show approximately 3,000. "More launches, sir." "They appear to be coming from every continent on the planet. 3,000 nuclear missiles." Zexter had never encountered such massive retaliation from a primitive species. Most civilized worlds kept only a few dozen nuclear weapons for extreme emergencies. "Sir," the communications officer interrupted, "we are receiving a message from the humans. Put it through." This time, only one human appeared on the screen. He wore the uniform of what the translation system identified as the United States military. His name appeared as General Patricia Morrison. "Commander Zexter," she said, her voice calm despite the ongoing missile attack. "I wanted to personally explain something that your scientists apparently missed in their research." Another wave of missiles struck the Imperial fleet. This time, one of the smaller ships reported shield failure. "You see," General Morrison continued, "we humans have a saying. If you want peace, prepare for war. We have been preparing for war for our entire history. Not just against each other, but against anyone who might threaten our freedom." The tactical display showed more red dots launching from Earth. The humans seemed to have an endless supply of weapons. "Your empire has made a fundamental error," the general said. "You studied our conflicts and saw chaos. You studied our emotions and saw weakness. You studied our short lives and saw inferior beings." A massive explosion lit up the view screen as one of the Imperial escort ships lost its shields completely. The hull held, but the ship was badly damaged. "What you failed to understand," General Morrison said, her smile growing cold, "is that everything you call a weakness is actually our greatest strength. We fight because we refuse to surrender. We feel emotions because they give us strength. When logic says we should give up, we live short lives, so we make every day count." Zexter watched in growing horror as his tactical display showed more launches from Earth. The humans had not just launched missiles. They were launching everything they had. Spacecraft, satellites, even what appeared to be modified cargo vessels, all aimed at his fleet. "But here is the most important thing your scientists missed," the general continued. "We have been watching the stars for a very long time. We have been listening to radio signals from across the galaxy. We know about your empire. We know about the 47 species you have protected. We know what happens to species that accept your offer." The truth hit Zexter like a physical blow. The humans had been monitoring galactic communications. They knew the Empire's true nature. "So here is our counteroffer, Commander," General Morrison said. "Leave our system now, and we will let you go in peace. Stay, and we will show you why humans have never been conquered by anyone." The transmission ended just as another Imperial ship reported critical damage to its main engines. Zexter stared at the tactical display in disbelief. His overwhelming force was being battered by a species that supposedly had no real space technology. The primitive nuclear weapons were doing far more damage than possible. "Sir," his science officer called out, "I am detecting strange energy readings from some of the human weapons. They appear to be enhanced beyond normal nuclear reactions. Enhanced how? Unknown, sir. The energy output is approximately 10 times what our models predicted for primitive nuclear weapons. As if to prove the point, another wave of enhanced warheads struck the fleet. This time, 2 ships reported hull breaches. Commander Zexter realized with growing dread that the Empire had made a terrible mistake. These humans were not primitive. They were not weak. They were something far more dangerous. 6 months had passed since Commander Zexter's first disastrous encounter with humanity. What should have been a simple occupation had become the Empire's worst nightmare. The humans had not only refused to surrender, they had gone on the attack. Emperor Zalthik sat in his private chamber on Nexus Prime, reading reports that filled him with growing dread. The war with humanity was spreading across the galaxy like a disease, infecting other species with dangerous ideas about freedom and resistance. Your Majesty, Admiral Kethrin entered the chamber, her usual confident posture replaced by obvious worry. I have the latest reports from the Sol system. The Emperor gestured for her to continue, though he dreaded what he might hear. The humans have captured 3 more of our ships this week, Admiral Kethrin said. But that is not the worst part. They are not destroying the vessels. They are studying them, learning from them, and somehow improving them. Emperor Zalthek stood up and walked to the large window overlooking his capital city. How is that possible? Our technology is thousands of years ahead of theirs. We do not know, Your Majesty. Our scientists believe the humans learn differently than other species. Instead of following logical development patterns, they seem to jump between ideas in ways that should not work. They take our technology and combine it with their own primitive methods to create something entirely new. The Admiral activated a holographic display showing images from the war zone. They have taken our energy weapons and somehow made them more powerful. They have modified our ships to move faster than our own vessels. Most disturbing of all, they have learned to use our communication systems to contact other species in the Empire. This was the news the Emperor had been dreading most. For 300 years, the Empire had maintained control by keeping their subject species separated and dependent. If the humans were breaking that isolation, everything could fall apart. What are they telling the other species? The Emperor asked. Admiral Kethrin's expression grew even more worried. They are spreading the idea that the Empire's protection is actually slavery. They are teaching other species about something they call freedom. Several worlds have already begun asking questions about their status in the Empire. The holographic display changed to show a recording intercepted from human communications. A human woman appeared, speaking directly to the camera. The translation identified her as Captain Sarah Chun of something called the Human Resistance Fleet. To all sentient beings living under the Zephyrian Empire, Captain Chun said, her voice clear and determined. My name is Sarah Chun. I represent the free humans of Earth. We want you to know that you are not alone, and you do not have to accept the Empire's control. The Emperor watched with growing horror as the human continued speaking. The Empire has told you that their protection is necessary for your survival. They have convinced you that freedom is dangerous and that only they can provide order. These are lies. Every species has the right to choose their own path, to make their own mistakes, and to build their own future. Admiral Kethrin paused the recording. This message has been broadcast to over 200 Imperial worlds. We have tried to block the transmissions, but the humans seem to find new ways to get their signals through our defenses. What has been the response? The Emperor asked, though he feared the answer. Unrest is spreading, Your Majesty. The Deltari system has formally requested independence. The mining colonies in the Outer Rim have stopped sending tribute. Most concerning, several species have begun asking to see the original treaties their ancestors signed with the Empire. Emperor Zalthik felt a chill run through his body. Those original treaties were nothing more than surrender documents signed under threat of destruction. If the subject species learned the truth about how they had joined the Empire, rebellion would be inevitable. There is more, Your Majesty, Admiral Kethrin continued reluctantly. The humans have begun rescuing Imperial prisoners. What do you mean? The holographic display showed another recording, this one taken from an Imperial security camera. Human soldiers, wearing strange armor that seemed to bend light around them, moved through the corridors of an Imperial prison facility. They moved, like shadows, striking without warning and disappearing before the guards could respond. They attacked Prison Station Omega-7 last week, Admiral Catherine explained. In 12 minutes, they freed over 3,000 political prisoners from 15 different species. Our security forces never even saw them coming. The Emperor watched the recording in stunned silence. The human soldiers moved with precision. That rivaled the Empire's best special forces. But more disturbing was their apparent disregard for their own safety. One human soldier remained behind to hold off Imperial reinforcements, allowing the others to escape with the prisoners. The soldier fought until his ammunition ran out, then activated some kind of explosive device rather than surrender. They sacrificed themselves for strangers, the Emperor said quietly. This behavior makes no logical sense. That appears to be the point, Your Majesty. Our military commanders report that human tactics are completely unpredictable. They do things that no rational species would attempt. They attack superior forces, fight to the death over worthless positions, and seem to view every battle as a chance to learn something new about our capabilities. Admiral Catherine activated another display, this one showing Imperial casualty. Reports, in 6 months of fighting, we have lost over 40 ships and 15,000 personnel. But the humans have lost nearly twice as many. By all logical measures, they should have surrendered months ago. But they have not, the Emperor said. No, Your Majesty. If anything, they seem to be getting stronger. Every human we kill seems to be replaced by 2 more who are even more determined to fight. Their recruitment messages have spread to every human settlement in their system. They are not just fighting for their own freedom anymore. They are fighting for the freedom of every species in the galaxy. The holographic display showed intercepted footage from Earth itself. Humans of all ages were working together to build weapons, spacecraft, and equipment for their resistance fighters. Children too young to fight were helping to manufacture ammunition. Elderly humans too old for combat were designing new tactics and strategies. Look at this, Admiral Catherine said, highlighting a particular scene. This is a human manufacturing facility. They are working 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, to supply their military forces. They have converted their entire civilization into a war machine. Emperor Zalthek studied the images carefully. He had seen many species fight for their independence, but never like this. The humans had turned their entire society into a weapon aimed at the Empire's heart. What do our xenobiologists say about this behavior? He asked. Dr. Yilvex believes we fundamentally misunderstood human psychology, Admiral Catherine replied. He now thinks their emotional responses are not weaknesses but evolutionary advantages. When humans become angry or afraid, they do not become less intelligent. They become more creative, more determined, and more willing to take risks. The Admiral paused the display on an image of human soldiers training. He also believes their short lifespans make them more dangerous, not less. Because they know they will die eventually anyway, they are willing to die for causes they believe in. This makes them almost impossible to intimidate or control. And their violent nature? Dr. Yilvex now believes that humans are not naturally violent. They are naturally protective. They fight not because they enjoy killing, but because they will do anything to protect what they love. And they seem to love freedom more than life itself. Emperor Zalthek turned away from the window and sat back down heavily in his chair. Everything the Empire had believed about humans was wrong. They were not primitive or inferior. They were something far more dangerous than the Empire had ever encountered. They were a species that had spent their entire history learning how to fight impossible odds and win. Your Majesty, Admiral Catherine said quietly, there is one more thing. Our intelligence services have intercepted communications suggesting that the humans are planning something they call the Liberation Fleet. They appear to be building ships, designed specifically to free Imperial colonies. The Emperor felt the weight of 300 years of Imperial dominance crashing down around him. The humans were not content to defend their own world. They were coming for the Empire itself, and for the first time in his long life, Emperor Zalthek was afraid. Dr. Yilvek stood in his laboratory on Nexus Prime, staring at the data that would change everything. For 8 months, he had been studying captured human prisoners, trying to understand how such a primitive species could cause so much trouble for the mighty Empire. What he had discovered made his blood run cold. The door to his lab opened and Admiral Catherine entered, followed by 2 Imperial guards. Her expression was grim as she approached his workstation. "Doctor," she said, "the Emperor demands answers. How are these humans defeating our forces? What makes them so dangerous?" Dr. Yilvex turned away from his computer screens, his 4 eyes blinking nervously. "Admiral, I must warn you that what I have discovered challenges everything we thought we knew about intelligent life in the galaxy. Just tell me what you found." The doctor activated a holographic display showing human DNA structures alongside those of other galactic species. "When we first studied humans, we focused on their obvious weaknesses. Their short lifespans, their emotional behavior, their violent history. We assumed these traits made them inferior." The hologram changed to show brain scans comparing human neural activity to other species. "We were catastrophically wrong. Humans are not an inferior species that failed to evolve properly. They are apex predators wearing the disguise of civilization." Admiral Catherine stepped closer to the display. "What do you mean?" "Look at their homeworld," Dr. Yilvek said, bringing up images of Earth. "We assumed it was a peaceful planet because we saw cities and farms. But Earth is actually a death world where everything tries to kill everything else. Humans evolved alongside creatures that could tear them apart with ease." The images showed Earth's wildlife. Massive predators with razor-sharp teeth, venomous creatures that could kill with a single bite, diseases that could wipe out entire populations. "Most species evolve on worlds where cooperation leads to survival," the doctor continued. "Humans evolved on a world where only the strongest, smartest, and most adaptable could live. Every single day of their evolution was a fight for survival against impossible odds." Admiral Catherine studied the data carefully, but they seemed so weak individually. "They have no natural weapons, no thick skin, no protective shells." "Exactly," Dr. Yilvek said, his voice rising with excitement and fear. "They survived not because they were the biggest or strongest, but because they were the smartest and most cooperative. They learned to work together to kill creatures 100 times their size. They learned to make tools that could overcome any natural advantage." The hologram showed primitive humans hunting massive animals using nothing but sharpened sticks and coordinated tactics. "But that is not the most terrifying part," the doctor continued. "Humans did not just survive on their death world. They conquered it completely. They wiped out every species that threatened them. They tamed the ones that were useful. They reshaped their entire planet to serve their needs." Admiral Catherine felt a chill run down her spine. "You mean they are a species of killers?" "No, Admiral. They are much more dangerous than that. They are a species of problem solvers who happen to be very good at killing when necessary. Every challenge they face makes them stronger. Every enemy that attacks them teaches them new ways to fight." Dr. Yilvex brought up another display, this one showing human technological development over time. "Look at how quickly they advance. In just 200 years, they went from riding animals to flying through space. In the last century alone, they developed nuclear weapons, computers, and global communication networks. Most species take thousands of years to develop space flight," Admiral Catherine said quietly. "Most species do not live with the constant pressure that humans face. Their short lifespans force them to innovate quickly or die. Their emotional responses help them think creatively under pressure. Their competitive nature drives them to constantly improve everything they touch." The doctor paused and looked directly at the Admiral. But the most terrifying discovery came when I studied their psychology during combat situations. A new hologram appeared, showing brain scans of humans during battle. When most species face overwhelming odds, their brains shut down non-essential functions to focus on survival. Humans do the opposite. Under extreme stress, their brains become more active, not less. They think faster, notice more details, and come up with solutions that should be impossible. Admiral Catherine stared at the brain scans in horror. You mean they get smarter when they are in danger? Much smarter. And that is not all. Watch this. The hologram showed recordings of human prisoners under interrogation. Every human we have captured has used their time in captivity to study our technology, learn our language, and gather intelligence about our forces. They turn imprisonment into an opportunity for espionage. The recordings showed humans asking their guards innocent questions, memorizing the layout of Imperial facilities, and even stealing small pieces of equipment for later analysis. 3 of our prisoners escaped last week, Dr. Yelvex continued. But before they left, they sabotaged our communication systems, downloaded classified files, and left behind detailed maps of our base for other resistance fighters to use. They turned a prison break into a military operation, Admiral Catherine said, her voice barely above a whisper. Yes, and this behavior is not limited to trained soldiers. Every human seems to possess these capabilities. Their children play games that teach military strategy. Their entertainment focuses on overcoming impossible challenges. Their entire culture is designed to produce individuals who can adapt to any situation and overcome any obstacle. Dr. Yilvex activated one final display, this one showing comparative evolutionary data. Admiral, I need you to understand something crucial. Every other intelligent species in the galaxy evolved in relatively safe environments. We developed civilization because we had the luxury of peace and cooperation. The display showed peaceful worlds where the dominant species had evolved without major predators or environmental threats. Humans developed civilization not in spite of constant danger, but because of it. They learned to cooperate not because it was easy, but because it was the only way to survive. This makes them fundamentally different from every other species we have encountered. Admiral Catherine studied the data for several long minutes before speaking. Doctor, are you telling me that humans are naturally better at war than other species? I am telling you something much worse than that, Dr. Yelvex replied. Humans are naturally better at everything that matters for survival. They adapt faster, learn quicker, cooperate more effectively, and innovate more rapidly than any species should be able to. The doctor pulled up the latest intelligence reports from the war zone. Look at what they have accomplished in just 8 months. They have reverse-engineered our technology, improved our weapons, and developed tactics that our military commanders cannot predict or counter. The reports showed human ships that moved faster than Imperial vessels, weapons that hit harder than Imperial cannons, and defensive systems that seemed to anticipate Imperial attacks before they happened. But the most disturbing development is what they are doing with our own subject species, Dr. Yelvex continued. They are not just freeing Imperial colonies. They are teaching other species how to fight, how to think, and how to innovate. The hologram showed recent footage from liberated worlds. Humans worked alongside other species, sharing technology and tactics, helping them develop their own resistance movements. The Deltari have begun modifying their mining equipment into weapons, Dr. Yelvex said. The Kavari are using their natural climbing abilities to conduct infiltration missions we never thought possible. The humans are not just fighting the Empire themselves. They are turning every species they encounter into effective resistance fighters. Admiral Catherine felt the full weight of the Empire's mistakes settling on her shoulders. Doctor, in your professional opinion, can we defeat the humans militarily? Dr. Yilvex was quiet for a long moment before answering. Admiral, in my professional opinion, we have already lost. We just do not know it yet. What do you mean? Every day this war continues, the humans learn more about us while we learn nothing new about them. They are studying our weaknesses, copying our strengths and teaching their allies everything they discover. Meanwhile, we are still trying to fight them using tactics designed for civilized species. The doctor turned off the holographic displays and faced the Admiral directly. The humans are not going to stop until every sentient being in the galaxy is free from Imperial control. And based on what I have seen, they have the knowledge, the determination, and the capabilities to make that happen. Admiral Catherine left the laboratory with her mind reeling. She had come looking for weaknesses to exploit and strategies to defeat the human resistance. Instead, she had learned that the Empire had awakened the galaxy's ultimate predator, and that predator was just getting started. Emperor Zalthek stood in his throne room watching the destruction of his empire unfold on dozens of holographic screens. 1 year had passed since the first human ships had arrived at Imperial worlds, not as conquerors but as liberators. Now, 43 of the Empire's original 47 subject species had declared independence. The massive doors to the throne room burst open as Admiral Catherine rushed in, her uniform torn and her face covered in soot from the latest battle. "Your Majesty," she gasped, struggling to catch her breath. "The human fleet has broken through our defenses around Nexus Prime. They will be here within hours." Emperor Zalthek turned away from the screens showing Imperial defeats across the galaxy. "How many ships do they have?" "Over 3,000 vessels, Your Majesty, but that is not the worst part. Less than half of them are human ships. The rest belong to the species we once protected. They are fighting alongside the humans as equals." The Emperor walked slowly to his throne and sat down heavily. The golden chair that had once symbolized absolute power now felt like a burden. "What do they want?" "The human commander sent a message, Your Majesty. She demands your unconditional surrender and the immediate release of all remaining Imperial prisoners. She also demands that you personally stand trial for crimes against galactic civilization." Emperor Zalthek almost laughed at the absurdity of it. A primitive species from the edge of the galaxy was demanding that he, ruler of the greatest empire, in history, surrender and face trial. "What is her name, this human commander?" "Admiral Sarah Chun, Your Majesty. Our intelligence reports indicate she was a simple cargo ship captain before the war began. The humans promoted her based on her success in liberating Imperial colonies. The irony was not lost on the Emperor. His empire was being destroyed by a former merchant, who had learned to fight by studying Imperial tactics and turning them against their creators. "Your Majesty," Admiral Catherine continued, "I must recommend immediate evacuation. We can retreat to the core worlds and attempt to rebuild our forces." "No," the Emperor said quietly. "There is nowhere to retreat to. The humans have taught every species in the galaxy how to fight. Even if we escaped today, we would face rebellion on every world we tried to claim." The throne room's communication system activated, and a voice spoke in perfect Imperial standard. It was a human voice, calm and confident. "Emperor Zalthek, this is Admiral Sarah Chun of the Galactic Liberation Fleet. I am requesting permission to land and discuss terms for your surrender." The Emperor gestured for Admiral Catherine to open the channel. "Admiral Chen, you are speaking to the ruler of the Zephyrian Empire. I do not surrender to primitive species." There was a pause before the human responded. "Your Majesty, with respect, your empire no longer exists. 43 worlds have declared independence. Your remaining military forces are surrounded and outgunned. Your subjects have joined our cause because they have learned what freedom means." Emperor Zalthek stood up from his throne, his voice rising with anger. "You humans are nothing but violent savages who have corrupted the galaxy with your primitive ideas about chaos and disorder." "Your Majesty," Admiral Chun replied, her voice remaining perfectly calm, "we prefer to think of ourselves as teachers. We have taught your former subjects that no one has the right to rule over others without their consent. We have shown them that freedom is worth fighting for. Most importantly, we have proven that even the smallest species can stand up to bullies when they work together." The Emperor felt his rage building. This human was lecturing him about civilization and morality. You have brought nothing but war and destruction to a galaxy that knew peace under Imperial rule. The peace of slavery is not real peace, Admiral. Chun said, it is just fear disguised as order. Your empire maintained control through threats and intimidation. You convinced entire species that they were too weak or too primitive to govern themselves. We simply showed them that you were wrong. Admiral Catherine stepped forward and whispered urgently to the Emperor. Your Majesty, our remaining fleet commanders are requesting immediate surrender. They believe continued resistance is hopeless. Emperor. Zalthek waved her away and continued speaking to the human admiral. What do you intend to do with the galaxy, Admiral Chun? Rule it yourselves? Replace our empire with your own? The human's response shocked him. We do not want to rule anyone. Your Majesty. We want every species to rule themselves. The Liberation Fleet's mission will be complete when every world in the galaxy is free to choose its own government and its own destiny. Impossible, the Emperor said. Without central authority, the galaxy will fall into chaos. Species will fight each other for resources and territory. There will be constant war. Perhaps, Admiral Chun admitted. But it will be their choice to make those mistakes and learn from them. Freedom includes the right to fail and try again. Your empire never gave anyone that chance. The communication system crackled with interference as human ships took position around Nexus Prime through the throne room's massive windows. The Emperor could see the Liberation Fleet filling the sky. Ships of dozens of different designs flew in perfect formation, representing species that had once feared each other under Imperial rule. Your Majesty, Admiral Chun's voice returned, I am prepared to offer you terms for surrender. You and your remaining officials will stand trial for your crimes, but you will be treated according to galactic standards of justice. Your people will be allowed to return to their homeworld as free citizens. Emperor Zalthek looked around his throne room at the symbols of 300 years of imperial power. Golden statues, ancient artifacts, and portraits of previous emperors lined the walls. All of it had been built on the foundation of subjugated species who had been told they needed protection. And if I refuse? He asked. Then my forces will take this facility by storm, and you will be captured rather than surrendering. The choice is yours, but the outcome will be the same. The Emperor walked to one of the large windows and looked out at the Liberation Fleet. He could see ships that had once belonged to his navy, now flying under the flags of free worlds. He could see vessels built by species he had dismissed as primitive, now armed with weapons that rivaled Imperial technology. But most disturbing of all, he could see that the crews of these ships were working together. Humans served alongside Deltari engineers. Kevari navigators worked with Zephyrian scientists who had defected from the Empire. Former enemies had become allies in the cause of freedom. Admiral Chun, the Emperor said finally, answer one question for me. Why do you fight for the freedom of species you had never met before this war began? Because freedom is not something that belongs to just one species, Your Majesty. It belongs to everyone. When any sentient being is enslaved, all of us are diminished. We fight for others because we hope they would fight for us. Emperor Zalthek closed his eyes and thought about everything his empire had accomplished. They had brought order to the galaxy, eliminated wars between species, and created the longest period of peace in galactic history. But they had done it by convincing everyone that freedom was too dangerous to allow. The humans had proven that freedom was not too dangerous, it was too powerful. Admiral Chun, he said quietly, I formally surrender the Zephyrian Empire to the Galactic Liberation Fleet. I will submit to trial and accept whatever judgment is rendered. Thank you, Your Majesty. Landing parties will arrive within the hour to begin the transition process. I want you to know that you will be treated with dignity and respect throughout these proceedings. The communication ended, leaving the throne room in silence. Admiral Catherine approached the Emperor cautiously. Your Majesty, what should I tell the remaining Imperial forces? Emperor Zalthek removed the crown from his head and set it gently on his throne. Tell them that the Empire is over. Tell them that it is time for everyone in the galaxy to learn what it means to be free." As he walked away from the throne for the last time, Emperor Zolfek realized that the humans had taught him something important. They had shown him that true strength did not come from controlling others, but from helping them control themselves. The galaxy would never be the same. And perhaps that was exactly what it needed.